Hi everybody. Today we will discuss the topic of product discovery. Product discovery is a very important part of product management. In product discovery, where on the one hand serendipity or chance discovery works, and one should always be alert to the Archimedes Eureka scenarios. On the other hand, there is the scientific approach given by the Design Council. We shall look at the details of the Design Council's framework for innovation. It helps designers and non-designers across the globe to tackle some of the most complex social, economic, and environmental problems scientifically. At the heart of the framework for innovation is Design Council's design methodology, the double diamond model, a clear, comprehensive, and visual description of the design process. Launched in 2004, the double diamond has become world-renowned with millions of references to it on the web. Design Council's framework for innovation highlights the design process and also includes the key principles and design methods that designers and non-designers need to take, and the ideal working culture needed to achieve significant and long-lasting positive change. The double diamond clearly conveys a design process to designers and non-designers alike. The two diamonds represent a process of exploring an issue more widely or deeply with divergent thinking and then taking focused action with convergent thinking. The first phase is the discover phase. The first diamond helps people understand rather than simply assume what the problem is. It involves speaking to and spending time with people who are affected by the issues. The second phase is the define phase. The insight gathered from the discovery phase can help you to define the challenge in a different way. The third phase is the develop phase. The second diamond encourages people to give different answers to the clearly defined problem, seeking inspiration from elsewhere and co-designing with a range of different people. The last phase, the fourth phase, is the deliver phase. The delivery involves testing out different solutions at small scale, rejecting those that will not work and improving the ones that will. This is not a linear process as the arrows on the diagram show. Many of the organizations we support learn something more about the underlying problems which can send them back to the beginning. Making and testing very early stage ideas can be part of the discovery, and in an ever-changing and digital world, no idea is ever finished. The framework for innovation outlines 4 core principles for problem solvers to adopt so that they can work as effectively as possible. First, put people ahead of everything. Start with an understanding of the people using a service, their needs, strengths, and aspirations. Second, communicate visually and inclusively. Help people gain a shared understanding of the problem and ideas. Third, collaborate and co-create. Work together and get inspired by what others are doing. Fourth, iterate, and iterate. Do this to spot errors early, avoid risk, and build confidence in your ideas. The problems we face today require more than one idea. They require working with organizations and supporting people to be part of the solution. As important as the process and principles organizations adopt, it is the culture of an organization and how it connects with citizens and partners. Leadership is needed to encourage innovation, build skills and capabilities, provide permission for experimentation and learning. Strong leadership allows projects to be open and agile, showing results along the way and being able to change. Engagement is needed with people who are delivering the ideas and receiving them, but also other partners who might have other ideas. Developing connections and building relationships is as important as creating ideas. In the first step of discovery, the team needs to keep the perspective wide, allowing for a broad range of ideas and influences. We talk of 4 methods that should be adopted. First, create a dedicated space for creativity. It can help make sense of large amounts of information, keep it organized, and communicate the story to others. Create a dedicated zone, a separate room. Use the walls to organize research spatially. Hold all meetings and creative sessions in this space so you are surrounded by the stimuli. Use the space to construct a story about your project that you can share with others and invite them to contribute. Try not to be too precious or perfectionist about the way you present your work, as people are more likely to make constructive comments on work in progress than something that looks polished. As the project progresses, you can reorganize the space to tell the relevant story for the stage of the project. Make the space comfortable to work in with appropriate lighting and tables and make it fun. Second, use an important function of the mind, that's observation. Watching people as they interact with products, services, and environments, and identifying areas where problems occur. Pick your scenario and record your observation with photos or video. The third way is to supply users with diaries or asking them to record pictures, videos, or audio. This helps in gaining insights into the lives of your users, particularly patterns of behavior. Supply users with a diary and ask them to keep a written record of their impressions, circumstances, and activities related to the relevant aspects of their life. The diary can be kept over a week or sometimes longer. Be careful not to ask leading questions that will distort the results you get. Keep your questions open-ended and language simple. Giving your users cameras or asking them to record pictures, video, or audio on their phones can be an effective way to get users to record important incidents and their environment. Photo diaries can be used in conjunction with a written diary or as a standalone piece of evidence. A fourth and very critical method to understand the user, put oneself into the user's position. Empathize with the user. Empathy in product management means being able to slow down enough to listen and observe, humble enough to learn and change, and able to not only know what something is dealing with, but to feel and understand with them. Empathy is all about feeling with people versus just intellectually acknowledging their situation. Without empathy, you almost guarantee you will miss out on insights about the best problem to solve and the right audience to solve that problem for, even when you are using proven approaches like progressive discovery. Add to these 4 methods a 5th activity of brainstorming. Meet often with open minds. Throw the discussion open with a question. Encourage contribution from everyone. Let the ideas flow. Brainstorming will be most effective if you keep to these ground rules. Defer judgment. Build on ideas to make them better. Don't criticize. One conversation at a time. Go for quantity. The more ideas, the better. Have wild ideas. Every idea is valid. Stay focused on the problem in hand. Be visual. Draw ideas or represent them with whatever is to hand. Last but not the least, complete the step of discovery with primary and secondary research. This exercise brings us to the next step, step 2, of defining the challenge. Use the right methods to review and narrow down the insights and establish the project's main challenge. The first method is to engage focus groups. Focus groups involve 6 to 10 respondents in a group discussion lasting 2 to 3 hours, moderated by a skilled facilitator. It helps you get a broad overview of users' reactions to and ideas about the topic. An important part of the define step is agree on the assessment criteria. It is a method of selecting the most promising ideas to develop further. Agreed assessment criteria are useful for taking into account the concerns of multiple stakeholders when deciding the best ideas to take forward. For this, use brainstorming to refine and agree upon a shared set of assessment criteria. These need to be structured to encourage participants to consider the perspectives of the other stakeholders when making their assessments. A popular method of defining the problem is to map the customer journey. Customer journey mapping is a visual representation of a user's journey through a service, showing all the different interactions they have. It allows you to see what parts of the service work for the user, the magic moments, and what parts might need improving, the pain points. How should one do it? Identify the key elements of a service. Consider all touch points, including those front and back of house. Understand the links behind all the different elements over time. Identify problems in a service or areas where new things can be added. After completing the first diamond and having defined the problem, we enter into the next diamond with the third step of the process, that is to develop the product. The first activity to do in this step is to create detailed user personas. We have discussed user personas in earlier video. Having user profiles visible during the design process stimulates ideas and aids decision making. They can also help justify innovations to stakeholders in the project. Based on research of your user groups or a brainstorm, identify the key characters that you are going to design for. You can give the characters names and visually represent how they look and dress, their aspirations, behaviors, lifestyles, and any challenging peculiarities. It is important to create profiles of extreme users as well as typical ones. It can also be useful to write stories about a typical day in their life. Next, create scenarios. Scenarios are detailed accounts of situations in which your users will interact with your product, service, or environment over a period of time. It helps in gaining an understanding of the context in which users may be interacting with your product, service, or environment in order to refine it. It's particularly useful when a series of interactions are necessary from the user. Define a set of characters who will use what you are designing. Consider the details of their lives, their jobs, their regular activities, and their attitudes. Identify key moments where these users interact with your project. Then realize them as scenes in a short text or a storyboard. Test the scenarios on users or yourself. Use what you learn to improve the design further. One other activity that helps is role-playing. Taking the role of the user and acting out their interactions can prompt more intuitive responses and help you to refine your design. Role-playing is particularly useful for prototyping interactions between people, for example, in a service context. Another activity at this point is to develop a service blueprint. It is a detailed visual representation of the total service over time, showing the user's journey, all the different touch points and channels, as well as the behind-the-scenes parts of a service that make it work. This helps everyone involved in delivering the service understand their role and ensure the user has a coherent experience. Physical prototyping is an important part of the develop step. Build a model of your idea. An early model can be very simple to test underlying principles. When it comes to the later stage of the design process, a more accurate model is required to refine details of form and function. Physical prototypes help iron out any unanticipated problems with creative ideas. Prototypes give insight into how your design will be used before you create a finished version. Physical prototypes are also particularly effective in communicating design ideas to diverse groups of stakeholders. This takes us to the last step of delivering the product. Use phasing to deliver the product. That is, deliver the product or service on a curve. It helps in managing risk before launching on a large scale. Test out the design on a small group of say 5 users. Then try it out on a group of 50 before offering it to 100. If something doesn't work, you can solve the problem before it affects many users, limiting financial losses. Even in the final deliver phase of the double diamond, the design process is iterative. Then comes the step of final testing. Identify any final constraints or problems before manufacture, checking a product against standards and regulations, and performing damage and compatibility testing. This ensures that the product successfully addresses the problem it's built to solve. As the users start using the product, it is critical to evaluate the product. Report back on a project's success after launch. Carry out customer satisfaction tracking surveys and see if changes in satisfaction can be linked to the new design. You can encourage in-use evaluation of designs by having questionnaires handy for users or customers. Creating feedback loops is also a way to look at how to bring improvements in the product. Gather user feedback through in-situ channels, for example, salespeople who interact with clients or service operators for a piece of equipment. Put aside ideas that emerge in post-launch feedback. If you decide to develop them later, they'll then go through the design process again on their own. A key for this framework to be successful is to use the ability of the human mind to think in 2 different ways, one being the divergent thinking and the other being convergent thinking. We will discuss this in the next short video. Thanks.